Hi guys, welcome to another video. Now, today, I know I have done this video before, and it's quite generic and, broad in its scope anyways, but I thought I would redo this video idea, which is ranking the signs from least favourite to most favourite in my personal opinion, just based on sun signs. The reason I'm redoing the video, though, the main reason is that I have got a few placements now, which I have changed, I've altered, um, and they're not the same as they were before. And there's a few signs where I've drastically moved them down or up respectively, um, since the last video I posted where I ranked the signs. So I thought I would do the updated version that I've got from now. So there isn't really even specific reasons, but as I did kind of touch on in that first video where I was ranking the signs before, um, my opinions do constantly change toward which signs I like the most and which ones I like not so much. And it changes a lot just because I'm an adaptable person anyway, but also because I don't know, I feel like as I learn more, stuff will naturally change in terms of my opinions on the signs. So, that's basically what I'm at right now. So recently I have changed the layout, the structure a lot. So I thought I would redo this video and kind of offer up, well, at least try and offer up my reasons as to why certain signs have moved on my list. It's not all of them, but the ones that have. And yeah, so let's just get into this. I don't want to waste too much time talking. This might be quite a boring video as I've already done it before, but hopefully not. Um, because this is again just my personal opinion, but I do want to update it now that my opinions on certain signs have changed quite dramatically in terms of the order on my list that I put them on. So yeah, that's why I'm redoing the video, as I say. So let's get into this straight away. So number 12, my least favorite zodiac sign. Now this actually hasn't changed from before, and that is Virgo. Um, Now, I'm not obviously sure if every one of you who's watching this video has seen my other video where I ranked all the signs before, but basically Virgo is still at the bottom of the list, and I don't think that will ever change. Now, I'm a Pisces sun, so just reflecting mainly on Virgo sun people, um, I do have this thing where in astrology, opposites normally attract. So you either are drawn to your opposite and you get on with them really, really well and you never have a problem, or the opposite happens, quite the opposite happens, and you just never get on with your opposite for some reason and you don't know why, you just don't like them as a person. And then what happens mostly for me, and I think most other people this is true for as well, is that you are innocently attracted to your opposite, but then you get to know them better and then you start to pull away from them. And this is the case with me the majority of the time with Virgo, some people. But I just, as I said in the other video, the reasons are the same. They're still my least favorite sign. Uh, so the reasons are the same as I offered up in the other video where I was ranking the signs. They're just very critical, but they are just as critical of themselves, if not more so, than they are of other people. So it's not like they just do it to other people and don't do it to themselves. They don't spare themselves when they're devastating criticism either. So to be fair, I will give them that. They're way too hard on themselves as well as other people. But yeah, there is too much self criticism in them, but there's also too much criticism directed at other people as well when it's none of their business to criticize people. Because, as long as it doesn't affect them, they have no right to criticize people and how they live their life, but they still think that they have the right to do that. Um, I do have Virgo friends in my life. The thing with Virgos is that I just feel they're a bit, even if you're friends with them, they are quite petty in a sense. They're very orderly and they have this ability to adapt to a high extent because they are the mutable earth sign, but they don't really use that. They still want to criticize everyone um and pursue perfection in all areas of life, but they're also grounded enough and realistic enough to know that perfection is impossible to achieve in the world, but they still insist on demanding that anyway from themselves and others, which I just don't understand. They're also quite emotionally unavailable, and if they're not actually cold-hearted, they do definitely give off that impression. I don't think they actually are very cold-hearted, but they do give off that impression. So yeah, that's Virgo and how they stand with me. They are still bottom of my list. I've had a lot of personal experiences in the past with Virgos that have been very negative as well, which have definitely tainted my image on them a little bit, I'll admit. But mainly, I think I'm still fairly objective on my judgment. It's just I just personally don't get on with Virgos. I know there's good things about them, I just don't like them personally. So, okay, so the next, number 11 on my list. Now, this also has not moved or changed. This has stayed the same for my previous video of ranking signs as well. I was actually considering moving this sign to 12 and giving Virgo the 11th place, but I just decided to leave them both in the places they originally were in, with Virgo 12th place, and then this sign is Aquarius, which I decided to leave in 11th. I was going to move them to 12, but I just, for some reason, decided to keep Aquarius as 11, because I do still feel like I like them a little bit more than Virgo as a sign overall. The problems with Aquarius, I mean, I really don't. Aquarius is interesting because now I really don't like them, but when I first was getting into astrology and all of this, I actually really liked Aquarius. I had a lot of people, friends, and acquaintances who were Aquarius that I actually got on really well with. I clicked with them instantly as soon as I met them. I have now had a few personal experiences that have been quite negative with Aquarius people, some people. Um, but I think that somewhat has tainted my view of them. But it's just also as I've evolved in my knowledge of astrology, I think I have just sort of grown away from Aquarius quite heavily. Aquarius does exalt Neptune, which is a major rule of my sun sign as Pisces. So I have basically, that's probably why I was initially attracted to Aquarius people, and I still am when I meet new Aquarius people. Um, but I feel like as I'm growing further in my knowledge of astrology and my astrology knowledge is growing, I moved really far away from Aquarius. So I still decided to leave Aquarius at number 11 on the list. Um, Major problems that I have with Aquarius, similar to Virgo, they are very, and Sagittarius and Libra, Pisces, all these signs, is that they all have in common this humanitarian quality. They like, they look after humanity, they are advocates for humanity in a passionate sense, all of that. But problem is that with Virgo and Aquarius, my main problems with them is that although they're caring, they are so unemotional, and as a Pisces with Cancer rising and a Capricorn moon, I have a lot of water in my chart, so it makes me highly emotional and it rubs off on me strongly. So I just cannot for the life of me understand, and I've tried really long and hard to try and understand the mindset of an Aquarius, where they are more sort of completely scientifically minded almost, and logically inclined and not emotional. But no matter how hard I try, I just really cannot, and I cannot wrap my head around that. No matter how much time I spend trying to understand that approach to life, I just cannot understand. It's like, if you care so passionately about humanity in general, which Aquarius definitely does do, then why would you not express it more often or more affectionately? Why would you be so detached on an emotional level? Why would you not like express your affection to people? I just cannot understand. Um, Especially if you don't know them very well, they appear to be very emotionally unavailable. They appear to be cold-hearted, even if they're not actually like that. They definitely appear that way, like Virgo, but actually, in a sense, even more cold-hearted, because Virgo at least is a little more emotional than the Aquarius. They're both not very emotional in general, but the Aquarius is definitely even less emotional than the Virgo. So it's like, why would you care so much about humanity? Why would you not express it openly? Why would you keep it under wraps and hide it away? Why would you hide your own feelings from yourself? I just cannot understand that. My Venus in my personal birth chart is actually placed in Aquarius, so I do, I guess, kind of understand this sort of detached sort of approach to life that Aquarius has. Um, in terms of what it would represent, because my chart does have Venus placed in Aquarius, but it's like, I don't know, maybe because Sun Aquarius is, I just can't understand, because they're a bit more intense with this Aquarius traits, obviously, because my Aquarius side is just Venus, obviously not my Sun or my Moon or anything else. So maybe that's why I can't understand it as much. But I don't know. I just can't understand this sort of liberal. I appreciate their non-judgmental. I really like that about them. I like their humanitarianism, but it's like I can't understand how they appear to be so detached. It's like they care about people on an overall level, like humanity in general overall, but they don't care about individual members of humanity very closely. They see the bigger picture, so it's like they kind of care about the whole world, the whole collection, the whole group of humans on this planet. very deeply and passionately. They just don't express that very much. But just on an individual level with one other person, they are terrified of commitment. They are not committed to one person, and they're not affectionate even as like just a friendship. They are not at all affectionate with individual members of humanity, which I just can't understand. Anyway, enough said there. Now the next sign, 10 on my list. Now this is a massive change, and this is the main reason why I wanted to actually do this video. So previously, now I'm talking about Leo as a sign. Previously, I literally had them as number 2 on my list of favourite signs. Um, Only Pisces was better than Leo in my opinion at the time. Um, but recently I've moved Leo all the way down from 2 to 10, and that will sound pretty harsh, but I don't know. Recently, it's Leo season at the moment, Leo sun season at the time that I'm recording this, and it's just like every single time that there's been a Leo season the past few years when I've been following astrology, I don't know, it's just during Leo season that everyone acts like a Leo, which of course would be expected, but when I see the Leo traits embodied in other people, that's when I start to see the negative sides of them a lot more. Um, like I did stick up for them a lot before. Like I gave them a lot of slack. It's like, they're very generous, they're very caring, they have a very creative sort of base to their personality, like me as a Pisces, so I connect with them in that sense. I do feel there's a certain natural level of attraction between Leo and Pisces, sorry. I do feel like Leo and Pisces are naturally highly attracted to each other already because they are similar in certain aspects. I do think they initially are strongly attracted to each other because they are both creative based to their personality and a generous based to their personality. But I just kind of feel like um, every time there's Leo season, people embody all these Leo traits naturally, obviously, and they start acting super egotistical. Even friends that I've been close with for years will suddenly start acting, like too much for themselves, and they won't be giving me this emotional affection that I normally do seek out in people, and I'll also be trying to give it back to them, but they won't be giving it back to me, so then I'll give up, giving it back to them as much. um and a bit of that, not as bad, but a bit of that has also been the case this year during this current Leo sun season as well, this cycle this year. And physically, I always feel kind of ill as well under this season, which is also strange. And even Leo moon cycles each month, I normally feel ill too for some weird reason because my Mars is Aries and I should be feeling great with Leo moon, but apparently I always feel ill for some reason, it seems like. It's just a trend I've noticed, but overall, I just feel like recently I'm starting to notice all the negatives of Leo more, and I'm really, really growing away from them. That's why I put them at 10, because it's like, I do think I was a bit harsh on certain other signs in the last video, where I ranked all the signs, and I was too harsh on them, and at the same time I went way too easy on Leo. Um, it's like, especially because I'm basing this just on sun signs, Leo moon's not as bad, but Leo sun, it is super egotistical. Now, I do understand their generous nature. I do sort of understand their fiery passion they have, and their need to, differentiate themselves from the crowd and be an individual and all of this sort of thing. But I just feel like they take it way too far. Like they're just, I'm a selfless person and I don't really understand this sort of more me mindset, and Leo does exemplify that. And every day I sort of notice Leo, their negative traits more and more, I think. Like, they're fun loving and I love them. I love being around them, but it's like, also they're a bit just too over the top as well. Like, obviously the sun is their planetary ruler, but it's just like the sun, like when it's really, really hot and you're sweating and you want the sun to go because you're overheating, you feel ill because it's too intense, it's in your face, you get sunburn, it's like it burns you, it's too intense. And Leo has a similar feeling to that. It's like when Leo's up in astrology and it's highlighted strongly for too long at a time, it rubs off on me in that way. Like, it gets way too intense. Like, everyone is acting too full of themselves, and it starts to get way too intense for my liking as a Pisces. And then the Leo's just, the fire's too present, and it's kind of evaporating my water, and it's irritating my water. It doesn't work. So, um, maybe that's not an acceptable explanation as to why I knocked them down so harshly, but that's kind of what I wanted to try and explain. So now, 9 on my list is Libra. Now, I was still considering moving them even lower towards my favorite sort of end of the spectrum rather than as low as 9. Um, but the reason that I think kept me from making Libra um like better than 9 on the list this time around. I was thinking about it just last night actually when I redid this list with this new order actually, or I think a few nights ago, I'm not sure. But Libra, they were at 10 before and now they're at 9 because I moved Leo to 10. So I moved Libra down to 9. But the thing with Libra is that they are very selfless. I really like how Libra is. They're different to Leo. Like they're not self-centered, they're selfless. Like they care a lot about other people besides themselves, which I do admire because of Pisces, I'm like that too. Um, and also my Capricorn moon is a strong Saturnian, serious sort of vibes, and therefore I admire, respect, and I kind of do have this serious approach to life, at least on an emotional, private level inside of me. So Libra actually exalts, in other words, strengthens Saturn. So they also have strong Saturn presence. So I understand their seriousness and their need to give everyone fair treatment and respect because I have that similar thing too with Capricorn. Um, but Libra, because they're still an air sign, I feel like they're a bit too logically inclined. They're not very emotional, which I don't really get on well with. They are definitely the most warm-hearted, generous, and emotional of the three air signs in astrology, definitely. But I just feel like Libra is a little bit too flighty still. They like to flirt around. They, especially if it's their sun in Libra, they want it's more for show if it's their sun. So they kind of wanting to flirt around. They're sort of quite surface level superficial, and when you try and get closer with them, they do still try and pull away. And Libra also, because they're striving for justice, if they have the wrong idea about how to serve justice in a specific situation in life, they can go too far in terms of pursuing fairness at the expense of the other person's feelings. Like it because they're a very serious sign. Like if they think that you're the one who acted unfairly, they're gonna turn their anger towards you and then you're going to bear the brunt of the consequences that they're going to give you. And sometimes it's misplaced. Like, if you think about the criminal justice system, obviously it fails quite a lot. Murderers will be found not guilty when they should be found guilty, or whatever. That's an example. It's like it fails a lot. So it's similar with Libra. Like, they can fail a lot, and then they think they're serving the just sort of approach, like they're being as fair as possible, but really they're doing it in the wrong direction, and then the person who should be, held responsible for all the problems is the one that's let off, and the one who wanted to keep the peace in the first place is the one who's being blamed for it. So obviously, hopefully you can see what I mean, that if that's misplaced, Libra can actually act very cold and distance themselves. Even if you used to be friends with them, they then reject you because they think that you've been unfair. And then they might not even listen, even if you are kind of telling them that you weren't the one who caused the injustice. So that's just hopefully I made that obvious as to a clear sort of explanation as to what I meant there. Um, but also Libra, I have had bad experiences with people in the past who have had Libra in strong personal planets in their chart. It's just, but I've also had a lot of Libras really help me out in my life too, especially Libra Suns. So I did move them down from 10 to 9 because I was a little harsh on them before, relative to how I was with Leo. So I have moved them down slightly. I do find a lot that I love about the Libra sign, but I do feel like they're a bit too serious sometimes, and they're quite, especially for an air sign, and they are quite, they're not emotional. They're a bit sort of like surface level. They're also pretty judgmental of people based on their personal appearance too. Of course, this is just a general trait. It's not necessarily every Libra in the world's like that, of course. Same with all signs. It's just like an overall broad character sort of thing, but they can be like that too. So 8 on my list is Gemini, and I'm not sure, but I believe that this hasn't actually changed. I think Gemini was 8 in the other list that I did before in the other video. Now Gemini, they are my favorite air sign with this new list as well, actually. And you would kind of probably expect Libra would be my favorite air sign because I'm a Pisces, but I actually do think Gemini is my favorite because my Mars in Aries, obviously it's fire, so I like that the air from Gemini will blow it. It gives me some excitement in that sense of my chart. I connect kind of elementally with them quite well with my Venus as well, because my Venus is Aquarius, which is another air sign. Um, but I feel like they're the most fun. They are the most immature and childish, which I don't actually like because my moon is Capricorn, which is quite mature and serious. But they're also like they are a bit two-faced. They're a bit like multi-personality, but they're my favorite air sign because I don't know, they're the most fun. I have more friends who are Geminis than I do any of the other air signs. So I feel like they're kind of the most fun. I know them the most closely because I think obviously Gemini is complicated, so you never kind of really know them um, fully anyway, even if you think you do because you're pretty close with them, or at least you think you are. You don't always know them very well, but I would still say that I've got more friends who are Gemini than any other air sign. So because of that reason alone, and I'm really, really close to two personal Geminis, if they're watching, you know who you are, guys. Thank you so much. Um, but yeah, because of that, like I've got two really, really close friends who are Gemini suns, so it's like I just sort of feel like they've got to be my favorite air sign for that reason. Um, and they can be pretty fun. Like if I sort of adapt with my Pisces sun a little bit so that I get on with air a little bit better and I'm not so needy emotionally or moody in that sense, then I think I can get on well with them. They can adapt a little bit toward me and be a bit more open and emotional. And then when we're adapting to each other, as long as we don't adapt away from each other, we get on pretty well, at least on a more superficial sort of level. And it does sometimes go deeper too if they really want it to and I really want it to. So that's why I put Gemini. So 7 is Aries. And before Leo, I did prefer to Aries, but now I've changed my opinion. And the reason that I've moved Aries to 7 is because I've got Aries family members who are very, very close to me. I've got a best friend, if you're watching, thank you, you know who you are. Who I've got a best friend who is an Aries and Aries sun. So again, as I say, similar to why I placed Gemini at 8, I've placed Aries at 7 because I do have really, really close friends in my life who are Aries, and I've got family members who are Aries I'm really close with. So it's like I like their energy and drive. I like the ambition they have. Um, I sometimes like their sort of direct approach. They can be a bit blunt and rude, which I don't like. I don't like how they handle their anger because they do handle their anger physically, which I don't like. But my Mars is Aries, so I kind of understand why Aries is physical with their anger, but I still don't like it. Um, but yeah, and I don't like how immature they can be sometimes, but I do like their pioneering spirit. I do like how they can channel their energy into fighting for justice as they get a bit more evolved, you know, as they get more life experience. They sort of start to channel that aggressive pioneering spirit into more practical, conducive sort of avenues, if you like, or healthier avenues, and they channel it toward campaigning for justice, protesting for human rights, and more humanitarian causes. And when they channel their energy into those more worthwhile and helpful causes, that's when they really shine as warriors and leaders, I think. So that's what I say about Aries. So 6, I have Scorpio, which I'm not sure actually if I moved them from the previous list. I actually don't think I did. Um, Correct me if I'm wrong though, anyone who has watched the other video. So Scorpio, they are my least favorite water sign. I've got a lot of family members, obviously very, very, very close to me, who are Scorpio suns. But the thing is, it's like I don't have many friends who are Scorpios necessarily. I have one. I used to have two. Um, but yeah, I feel like Scorpio, their intensity. Now, obviously, all water signs are emotionally intense, so I understand their intensity to a certain extent. But I think they overdo it. They're just way over the top. Because they've got strong Mars presence, they're quite aggressive, and they're a bit too confrontational. And then they have Pluto, which makes them sort of secretive and the moon's fallen in their sign. So even though they're highly emotional, they don't let themselves feel that. They hold back on their emotions quite a lot. So that creates an inner conflict for them because they feel highly emotional because they're a water sign and they want to kind of assert it directly and aggressively on one side of them because of the strong Mars presence they possess. But then the Pluto side makes them secretive. And then because the moon's fallen, they also don't want to express the feelings even to themselves or admit that they feel them. So they kind of end up just not saying anything and being very secretive. So I do think they're a bit too secretive. I think the secrecy is overdone a bit. I feel like the intensity is overdone a little bit, and they deliberately sort of restrain their empathy a little bit. And even if they are as affectionate, warm-hearted, and caring as the other water signs are, the Cancer and the Pisces, even if they are like that, they definitely don't show it as much as the Cancer and the Pisces. They will keep it very much restrained and under wraps and hidden inside of them. Um, so that's basically what I feel about Scorpio. I feel like they're a little bit too secretive. I feel like they're a little bit too intense. They can be very pessimistic and depressive sometimes. They can really drag you down. And they're not the best sign at lifting you up when you feel down yourself and you go to them for emotional support. They will support you emotionally, but they're not very good at bringing your optimism back up, because they are probably chances are more depressive than you are, even if you're already really depressed. So they're not the best people to go to if you want to be cheered up, because same with Capricorn actually, because they're just as depressive as you are normally. So I think that their intensity is overdone, um, or at least it's they show it too much. But it's really complicated because they show it too much, but they also are sort of very secretive, as I say, obviously. Um, but they're a bit too confrontational with it, I feel like. But I do really like their loyalty and their devotion to you. Even on a friendship level, they are very sort of loyal and committed. They won't easily just like drop you for no reason, and I really appreciate that. And I do like how they fix water because obviously water, I've got a lot of that element too. So I do like how they persevere that and they keep the emotion going. And if you get really close to them, they are actually much nicer people than the stereotype that their sign normally gets. So yeah, I know them quite well, and they're not as sinister as their sign gets that reputation as being. So they don't really deserve that stereotype as their sign, but that's kind of Scorpio. So next up is the Capricorn, and I do believe that I've moved Capricorn down um, to closer to my favourite sign than they were before. Capricorn is my moon sign. Um, thing about Capricorn is I do have a lot of water, so I appreciate having my moon in Capricorn because at least on an emotional level, it makes me a little bit more grounded and stable, which I do kind of need. That is valuable for me because otherwise I would be, you know, uh, I would be more like a typical Pisces, but I would be less grounded and realistic. I would be just, I would constantly have my head in the clouds, and I would constantly be aware of the fairies, that sort of thing. But I'm prevented from doing so a little bit by my moon in Capricorn because it's an Earth sign, and water just in general, they kind of require an Earth sign to balance them out in terms of making them more stable. It gives them the emotional grounding that they need. It gives them a break from the emotional sort of whirlwinds that they're always going through on the inside. So they do kind of require Earth to balance them out. And my moon in Capricorn, I think, does give me this certain sort of stability, which I do really appreciate, and it makes me a little bit more realistic. So that's definitely a good thing. But I feel like Capricorn, they're a little bit too they are too serious. They're very energetic and ambitious, which is really good. They are kind of wanting to have this pioneering spirit, but I do feel like they are a bit too serious. They're they can come across as very cold and emotionally unavailable. They are emotionally quite reserved and they don't trust very easily. They don't open up, certainly don't open up very easily. But they can look quite cold to outsiders looking in. They can look quite not affectionate, which I don't like about them. But yeah, and they do want to control people a little bit too much for my liking. They're a little bit too controlling and a little bit possessive even. Scorpio and Taurus are like that too. But I do feel like Capricorn wants to control people a bit too much for my liking. But overall, I'm going to like Capricorn more and more. I do appreciate their sign quite a lot. Next up, I've got Taurus, and fourth place actually is Taurus. So Taurus, they are now my favourite Earth sign, which before they weren't. I think they were actually my second to least favourite actually, with Virgo being the least and Taurus, Capricorn, sorry, being the best. But now I have moved Taurus down to 4 and Capricorn down to 5. So Taurus, I have a lot of friends who are very close to me who are Taurus. Anyone who might be watching this, Thank you. You know who you are. Hello. Um, but yeah, I feel like I kind of had to put Taurus as my favorite Earth sign because one, I do have a lot of friends who are Taurus that I'm close to more than the other two Earth signs. So that's the first thing. I do kind of seem to connect with Taurus pretty well, at least at first, and it normally does last a long time too. I do, again, similar to Scorpio, appreciate that Taurus is very loyal. They are very sort of possessive. They treat people like material objects sometimes, which I don't like. But I do appreciate, like Scorpio, their loyalty. They won't easily just drop you as a friend, like a big argument with them or something. They're not just going to abandon you as a friend because of like one hiccup or misunderstanding you had. They might need time to get over it, but once they do, they normally will come back to you and forgive you. They are quite, they're the builders basically. Well, I guess Capricorn's more the builders, but they're like the rocks people can lean on. They don't change. They're sort of, but they're stubborn, which is a downside to them. But they are just quite they're very reliable. Nothing would happen if you didn't have a reliable sort of start point. And Taurus represents to society in general. I feel like they represent that solid, stable starting point, and then you can build on that. Then you can kind of get Capricorn to build on that, if you like, and then they're just like the foundation that is very stable and it doesn't move, it doesn't change, it's rigid. Capricorn is similar, but obviously Capricorn's a bit more mobile, a bit more movable. But Taurus is just this rock. Like if you really need support, the Taurus is the one who is always there to give you that support, and they are one of the best signs for that. And I do feel like they can be a bit depressing sometimes. Not as bad as Capricorn. I forgot to mention Capricorn's definitely the most depressing, the most pessimistic. But the Taurus is quite warm-hearted as well for an Earth sign. They're very emotional for an Earth sign. They do exalt the moon, whereas Capricorn actually weakens the moon. Um, the Taurus is very emotional, and they are quite open when you get to know them. They can take on this sort of shy, reserved, introverted sort of nature at first, but when you get to know them, they are actually quite open and they are quite, at least on an emotional level, they're quite straight thinking, quite basic with their needs. They're not secretive like the Scorpio is. They are opposite to Scorpio, obviously, on the zodiac wheel. But with Taurus, I like that you do pretty much know where you stand with them. Similar to Aries, actually, although they express it in a less aggressive way, obviously. But I also like that they like their Venus. They like the finer things in life. They appreciate beauty and everything, which of course Libra does too. But I like that in them, uh, and I like how they're a bit less sort of petty. They're not like they don't judge you as well. They do judge you just as much as Libra based on your personal appearance, but they sort of see beyond that at the same time. Whereas Libra would do that and get hung up on that, whereas Taurus will do that, but then they'll see beyond the surface as well at the same time because they are more grounded. But that's Taurus. Sagittarius I put as number three, making them my by far favorite fire sign now on my list, and I think that that's fair because like they're ruled by Jupiter, same as me as a Pisces sun. So we have the same sort of optimistic, upbeat philosophy to life in general, approach to life. I like how Sagittarius, they are very, very ethical, they're very, very fair minded. And Leo is generous, but the Sagittarius is actually the most humanitarian. They're the one who actually will fight and campaign for human rights and things of that nature. They're the one who will make sure, almost in a Libra and Aquarius way, in that they do want to see that justice has been served. But Sagittarius is definitely the most ethical fire sign, and they're almost teachers, they're preachers, which they preach too much. That is annoying. I will admit that is quite annoying. But and they're freedom loving. They don't like clingy people. They're not. They are a bit superficial on an emotional level. They're definitely the least emotional fire sign, which I don't get on with. But the reason that I've got them as my favourite fire sign, despite all of these, is because they're the most evolved fire sign. They are the one who has this more spiritual awareness, this more religious sort of philosophy on life. Their outlook is very noble. They have a very noble intention, as does Leo, but they sort of execute it in a more kind of not a better way, but they just execute it in a way which is Leo has this thought process where they want to be noble in their intention, but Sagittarius actually doesn't think so much about it. They just already are noble in their intention. So it's like Leo will think, I want to be fair-minded, I want to treat everyone generously, so that's how they're going to try and look like they come across as. But Sagittarius doesn't really think about it as deeply. Like, they don't want to look generous, they just naturally are generous. I think that's the difference too. Like, well, Leo will like try to look generous, but the Sagittarius actually is generous. Like, Leo is generous too, but it's like, I think they have to try harder to keep up this generous attitude, whereas Sagittarius just dishes it out supernaturally. They're just naturally very generous. Um, and I like the Jupiter presence they have. They kind of exaggerate everything, which can get very tiresome sometimes. They're a bit too aggressive with how they're imposing Jupiter. Like, they want to expand everything, which is Jupiter in general. It works as a magnifying glass, that planet in astrology, but I feel like Sagittarius, they are a bit too honest. They can hurt other people's feelings accidentally by being too honest, but at least you definitely know where you stand with them. They're definitely the sign where you're never going to be confused about whether they like you or not. They're very, very honest in that sense the majority of the time. Cancer is number two, second on the list. Um, Cancer was at the third place before, but now they're at the second place. I have moved them down. Now, Cancer is my rising sign. I don't know, I just feel like most Cancers I meet, there's been a few that I just really have not got on with from as soon as I met them, but actually the vast majority of them, they seem to like me as soon as they see me, and I seem likewise to like them as soon as I meet them. I think the ones that I have had problems with slightly, it's only been very mild problems every time, admittedly. But the ones I have had some initial problems with, I think, is because my moon's Capricorn. So of course, Cancer is opposite to that. So there's attraction, and then falling out, or there's loving forever, or there's hating forever for no reason. And I think maybe just this natural dislike on both sides that we had came from my Capricorn moon, because some Cancers might react with they don't like anyone who is their opposite and they're not even attracted at all. So maybe that was the explanation for the occasions where I haven't got on so well with Cancer. I don't really like how Cancer can be very reserved, and they sort of do hide in their shell. They sometimes deny that they're so affectionate, so caring, because if they don't trust you, they're not going to show you the heart that they have because they want to keep it guarded. They want to keep it under wraps. But it's a paradox in them because at the same time they're cardinal water, so they want to show you all this affection, but they also restrain it at the same time and hold that back because one, they're introverted, and two, they are very indirect and passive, and they sort of if they don't think you deserve to see their generosity and have it channeled from them towards you, they're not going to show you it until you've proven you deserve that from them. So they are in a paradox in that sense. They're quite torn whether between, do I want to show them this cardinal water I've got and be generous to them, or do I want to hide it because I'm too reserved and I don't want to show it to them because maybe they don't deserve it. Like, I don't trust that they deserve that from me. Maybe that's the case that they may be at, uh, possibly. But overall, I just feel like I love Cancers when you get under their shell. When you do get them to open up to you, they are very warm, very like, they're very motherly. They are the mother archetype of the zodiac, and Capricorn's the father archetype. I do feel they're almost smothering though. They're a little bit too clingy sometimes. They are the crab, so obviously when they grab you, they're not going to let go easily. They can be a bit too motherly. They can be a bit, like the possessive mother. They can be a bit over the top, a bit too clingy, and a bit worrisome. Like, they're very worried and timid by their nature, which is why Pisces is my favorite sign still. And it's not just because I am a Pisces sun, but it's just because I feel like Pisces, they handle the water in a different way. Um, it might sometimes be less obvious than Cancer that they are so caring because they are a bit more flighty and changeable. The Pisces, this is, but sometimes it's more obvious that they're caring because Pisces sort of, I feel like they more wear their heart on their sleeve and they can't hide their feelings. Cancer's better being under their shell because obviously Pisces, their fist, they don't have a shell to retreat under. Cancer does. So I feel like Cancer's better at pretending to not be so caring, actually, rather than the other way around if they don't trust you. Pisces is very naive and gullible, like they'll just trust everyone by showing everyone their heart. But the only reason Cancer's not as good as Pisces on my list is that Cancer's just a little bit too they're a bit like over the top with it, like they're smothering. Like, Pisces will show you that they care a lot about you, but then they won't be as clingy. Like they're still going to let you live your life, sort of thing, because Pisces want freedom a little bit more than Cancer. And Pisces is also a bit more, they're less judgmental than Cancer as well. And they're not as intense as Scorpio either. So they're kind of in the middle. It's like they want to change. They are the mutable water sign. So they want to change more. So they'll show you that they care about you, but they're not going to be smothering all over you, because they don't wrap you in cotton wool. Like Pisces wants to, but then they also won't if they know that you don't want them to. If you tell them that you want to be wrapped in cotton wool, then they will by all means do it and they'll be willing to. But the thing is, like, they can read you. So it's like if they know that maybe they come across as too smothering to you and you don't really like it, they will be less so because they're also open and adaptable more than the Cancer, so they can do that. Um, Whereas the Cancer will retreat in that case. Like if they read that you find them too possessive or over the top smothering with emotion, they're just going to be offended by it, or they'll just retreat away from you, and they'll take it as an insult. Pisces won't. They'll just be like, okay, well, some people aren't so emotional. They find it a bit too over the top, so I'm just going to still be caring toward them, but just a little bit less so that I'm less possessive. Cancer doesn't. They can't do that, so they'll just instead they'll take it as an insult and pull away from you. But this is my new list. I hope that I don't know why, but I feel like I wasn't the best at explaining it for some reason today. But like that is my new list. And obviously a few signs have changed, which is why I did think it was worth doing this video again. The updated version of my most favorite, least favorite sort of sign. Well, least to most favorite signs. So thank you for listening. If you did all the way through this long video recording. I have been stuttering a lot. I'm sorry about that, but yeah, that's kind of the end of this video. I didn't want this to be too repetitive because, of course, I have done this video idea before, but hopefully it wasn't. And that is my updated list of favourite signs. As I say, I do change my mind a lot about this. Again, it's nothing to take personally, even if you're one of the signs that I don't really like, because it's only based on sun signs. It's not based on moon signs or any other planet in your chart that's placed in, a certain sign. It's not based on anything detailed like that. It's based only on the sun sign personality, which, as I explained in the other video, obviously you've got your moon, you've got all the other planets. It's not just your sun sign. Your sun sign's actually more of a superficial surface layer personality. Your moon is more who you truly are. So it's not very personal because it's only aimed at sun signs. Like the moon sign, I wouldn't do a video like this for the moon sign because that is more personal. um so, it still wouldn't be offensive, but it would be a bit more like, that is your true, deeper internal nature. But this is just based on sun signs. Um, but yeah, it's just my personal opinion. Obviously, all the signs I understand we need all the signs to complete the zodiac, and I like there is something about every sign that I do like, I will admit. Even Virgo, Aquarius, and Leo, like the signs I don't like so much, there's still traits to them that I do still think are good traits and that I do still like. So I'm not hating on any one specific sign. But yeah, thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.